The level of success that you reach is inextricably tied to how precisely you can articulate your own thoughts. Put another way, being good at explaining shit to other people is going to be advantageous regardless of what you are trying to achieve. And so articulacy, or we can just call it effective communication, is really broken down into two foundational pillars. The first one is signal, what you actually say, and the second pillar is delivery, how you say it. We're going to focus on both, and I'm going to provide you with 3 practical tools for each so that you can become a more effective communicator. Now we're going to start off with signal, what you actually say, but the deeper definition refers to the degree to which your words accurately transmit your intention. And so a signal refers to something transmitting information. Often we know what we want to say. We have it mapped out in our thoughts and we know roughly what we are trying to communicate. It's just that issue between transmitting your thought into spoken word. It's that disconnection which many people struggle with, and that's what we're going to try and enhance through signal. And so we've got 3 signal enhancement tools. The first one is semantic precision, the second one is compression, and the third one is epistemic discipline. I'm going to go through and explain each. The first one is semantic precision. You see, most people struggle to communicate effectively. They struggle to articulate their thoughts, not because they're not intelligent, but because they're trying to use words that they don't actually understand. Of course, that's going to create confusion. You see, most people's recommendation to improving the way that you communicate and articulate words is by learning more. Learn big and esoteric words that when you use, no one really understands what you're saying, and to be honest, you don't really understand what you're saying either. I'm saying don't learn any new words. I'm saying learn the words that you already use on a regular basis. It's within your lexicon, but you don't understand the meaning of them. You can't actually define them, because the issue is when we don't understand the meaning, we cannot define a word. It's creating a sense of confusion. There's no clarity, and so no clarity creates confusion, ambiguity. And every time you're speaking, you're constantly second guessing yourself on whether that word is correct, whether that word actually makes sense, because you're not 100% sure. I can give an example here. A lot of people use the words accuracy and precision interchangeably. Now, the vibe of this word, and there really isn't a better word than vibe, you just kind of have a vibe for this word. Generally, it means how close you are to another thing. So people will use these 2 words interchangeably because in their mind, it kind of means the same thing, but they cannot actually define them. Now, of course, accuracy refers to how close a result is to its true results, and precision refers to how consistent a result is with other results within a certain test. And so they do fundamentally mean different things, and you wouldn't know that unless if you study the meaning of words. Semantics is what the meaning of words is. And so once you begin to get clarity on what words actually mean, you gain clarity. Understanding is the prerequisite of control. If you do not understand the words that you are deploying through your speech, you are constantly going to be second guessing yourself. There's constantly going to be a layer of doubt, and that's obviously going to dampen and damage the way you communicate and how confidently you communicate. And so what I recommend is just go throughout your life and communicate how you usually do, and just notice the words that you are speaking. Now, of course, this requires some mindfulness, some metacognition to be aware of what you're speaking. But when you use a word that you think is interesting, write it down and try and define it. Don't search it up. Try and define it in your own mind. I just used the word ambition. I used the word desire, fulfillment, emotion, thought. What do these words mean on their own? And try and tie it to a specific outcome, a defined constraint, or an observable action. Now, what you'll find is defining words are actually really difficult. What is the difference between accuracy and precision? What's the difference between efficacy and effectiveness? What does success mean? Motivation, intention, efficiency, discipline. These words all have unique first principle definitions. that you do not yet understand. And so the understanding is where we gain the control, the clarity, and therefore when you speak, you can select the word that best fits the criteria of what you're trying to communicate. That intention you're trying to communicate, you now have a plethora of words you can choose from that you know for a fact do accurately demonstrate what you are trying to say. And so you're not second guessing yourself, you're not stuck in confusion or ambiguity, and by default, you're just going to be communicating more effectively. That's the first one, semantic precision. Start learning what words actually mean. The second one is compression. Less is more. Effective and clear communicators do not try and add more to their sentences, they try and remove them. You see, stripping language down to only what moves the idea forward, leading with the conclusion and removing anything else that does not earn its place. And so just telling someone to speak less is not going to work. They're going to struggle, and if they do speak less, it's going to sound staccato and incomplete. So the way that you practically do this is you lead with the conclusion. You lead with the point that you are trying to make, because what people often do is they ramble. They lead with context. They think out loud and then they meander to the point that they're actually trying to make after 5 minutes of context that was unnecessary. It's filler, it's long-winded, it's ambiguous. People don't really know what you're talking about. You're going on tangents. Lead with the point or the conclusion. Even though it feels daunting, I can't just say the point out loud. I need to give all the context and the caveats. No, do that after. Give your main point. I like X. I don't think X is right. That is bad. Whatever the point you're trying to make is, and then backfill it with the context and the explainer that is required, but only what is required. Because ultimately, if people need to understand more about what you just said, they will ask you, and you can answer those questions specifically. You don't need to preempt every single question that will be asked, because you'll end up rambling. Lead with the conclusion, live with the point, and then backfill with your explanation. By default, if you do that, you will be saying less. And what you'll notice is when you say less, your IPW increases. This is a made-up metric, impact per word. You see, when you have someone, I'm sure you've sat down for lunch or a dinner, and someone's been occupying the conversation. They are saturating the conversation with their words. Maybe they're occupying 70% of this conversation. Every marginal word, every additional word that this person contributes to the conversation, the impact by that word or per word goes down and down and down the more that they say, because the more tired people get of that person speaking and the more bored of their speech they get. So the less you say, by default, your impact per word increases. If you're only occupying 10% of the conversation, by default, the words that you do contribute just have more impact, even if they're not more impactful by themselves. Just the fact that you're saying less means each word means more. In this case, less is more. Focus on compression, lead with the conclusion. The second practical tool we can use to enhance our signal is epistemic discipline. Only speak in depth on what you truly understand. Man, this is so important. This is especially pertinent in the modern day. Everybody seems to have an opinion on everything. Global politics, domestic politics, celebrities, health, wellness, wealth, relationships. Everybody seems to have a take on everything, and the vast majority of people's opinions are uninformed. And therefore, when they make those opinions and then when they try to communicate on topics they don't understand, they're obviously going to be unclear, they're going to be rambly, they're not going to sound intelligent because they don't actually understand what they're talking about. So the practical tool here is, you don't need to change anything or the way you speak or how you say it or what you say. Just don't speak on depth, on things you don't understand, things you don't care or understand about. Because when you do, you sound incoherent, you sound confusing, because you're confused yourself. You will sound confusing if you're confused. The easiest thing you can do by default to now communicate better than 99% of people is simply only communicate in depth on things you understand. Because by default, most people who communicate on those same topics, let's say you really understand the weather, and you really understand surfing, and you really understand non-fiction books, and you really understand this TV show on Netflix. There's probably more that you understand, but those are the real four that you really intimately understand. Most people who talk about these four topics don't know what they're talking about. They're doing the thing that humans do, and they try to herd and they try to pretend as if they know what they're talking about to fit in with the conversation. People aren't going to remember the takes you didn't make. They're going to remember the ones you did. And so make sure the ones you do are about things you understand, because automatically, when you understand something, you're going to be better at effectively communicating your intention because you understand those topics better, more effectively. And so people are automatically just going to think you're a better communicator than most people. Even though you're not, you're just actually speaking on things that are within your realm of understanding. Now, there is a fourth tool that we can use to improve our signal, what we actually say. Now, of course, I'm going to under-promise and over-deliver with this video. The fourth one is less flashy. It's a bit of a basic bitch idea, which is repetition. I couldn't have led with this on the first point because everybody has got this short attention span and they need the value straight away. I understand that, but this could not be missed out because this is really the most important. The more you put in, the more you get out. Communication is a skill. It is like any other skill. But for some reason, when it comes to communication, people are looking for the shortcut. They're looking for the tip that's just going to make them speak like Martin Luther King at the podium, or going to be selling like Jordan Belfort or something. It doesn't work like that. Communication is a skill like any other. When people start learning the trumpet, they don't think someone's going to tell them one hack or strategy that's going to make them learn play the trumpet better than anyone else ever has. No, they realize it's going to take years and years of repetition, which is just practice. It's the exact same with communication. It requires years and years of repetition and practice. If you want to get better at communicating and articulating your thoughts on a sales call, guess what? You have to take more sales calls. If you want to articulate your thoughts better on a date, go on more dates. If you want to speak better on camera, post more content, film more videos of yourself. It really isn't that much more complicated. Now, of course, where we're focusing with our practice is important. So focus on compression, leading with the conclusion. Focus on semantic precision, learning what these words actually mean. And of course, you have to understand epistemic discipline. Make sure that you're actually talking about the things you understand. These will come into your repetition. But if you're not actually practicing communication, you're not going to get any better. The more you put in, the more you get out. It really is linear like any other skill. Communication is like running, playing the trumpet, learning to do a backflip on a trampoline. There's no quick hack or tip. That the secret is there really is none. And so the more you put in, the more you get out. Now on to delivery. That will signal what you actually say. But delivery is just important, how you actually say it. Delivery refers to the manner in which intention is felt, not merely understood. You must understand people don't remember what you actually said. You can't remember anything that other people tell you, for the most part. You remember how it made them feel or how it made you feel. Emotion is the language of memory. We remember through emotion, and we feel emotion based mainly on how people deliver the message that they're saying. I could say the exact same sentence in two drastically different tones. Maybe one time I say it really, really angry, and then the other one I do it super, super sad. Totally different emotional response from the person receiving it. Tone and delivery matters a lot in terms of what people actually remember about you. And so we're going to go through 3 tools that we can use practically to enhance our delivery. The first one is temporal control. The second is embodied emphasis. The third is emotional encoding. So the first one, temporal control, is the power of pause. You see there? Just a moment of impact. The deliberate use of silence and pacing to give your words weight, structure, and psychological impact. You see, you're not a bad communicator, you're just trying to get everything out all at once. I like to use the prey and predator metaphor. A prey, like a deer, moves erratically, they move quickly, they're constantly trying to get out of the way. Prey, on the other hand, a lion, it's lazy, it moves slowly. Don't rush yourself. You're in no rush. No one's going to interrupt you if you're mid-sentence, if they're actually worthwhile talking to. And so use deliberate use of pause. Pause before you make a line or a point to signal importance, and pause after the point or the line to let it land. Allow pause to change the weight and structure. Give your words context and give your sentences texture and psychological impact. Because when you're just constantly firing words out at 1,000,000 miles an hour and there's no stop or break, nothing has impact. Use pause to demonstrate what you want to be impactful and what you want people to listen to. Have you ever noticed when billionaires and really smart people get interviewed, they'll get asked a question and they'll think for 5, maybe 10 seconds before they answer the question. I saw an interview with Elon Musk and he just sat there thinking. So use a pause to think, but even if you don't think, you could say the exact same sentences. The first one you say right away after someone asks you a question. The second one, you give it a 2 to 3 second pause, and then speak. It just has so much more psychological impact, regardless of whether you're thinking or not. And so use the power of pause to your advantage. Whether you utilize it more in terms of thinking about your point, I highly recommend. But if you're not, just use it anyway. There's no downside to pausing, unless if you overdo it and you begin to sound staccato, which you won't. Use pause more often. Second one's embodied emphasis. Using the body to physically encode meaning so the message feels certain, intentional, and real. What you must understand is there are 2 channels of communication. The first one we've really been focusing on the entire video is the spoken word. The second one is the hidden one. It's the unconscious channel of communication, which is the body. You see, before anyone could speak language, before humans spoke language to each other, we used to communicate with our body. And so whether you consciously realize it or not, you are analyzing people's body language. What is their body? What intention is their body expressing? And what we want to aim for is synchronicity between our spoken word and our body language. Because you see, if your body language is incongruent with what you're actually trying to say, you're trying to make an important point, but you're crouched over, your shoulders are rolled, your hands are tucked or in your pockets, you look unconfident, you're not going to make a confident point. Secondly, we can use our body to literally paint a picture, play charades with what we're trying to discuss. You can do anything with your hands. Just the moment you start moving your hands, the point you're trying to make just has more impact. I don't really know why this is. It comes down to long before we had language, we used the body. If you just use the body, it doesn't even have to be related to what you're saying. It just seems more compelling. It just seems like you have more conviction when you're more in command of your environment and your space, and you're more willing to use up that space with your hands. Now, as I've been speaking for the last couple of minutes, I've been doing absolutely random things with your hands. Do people notice? Perhaps. But that's just an example. You can do anything with your hands, really. If you can paint out a picture of what you're actually saying. Now, this had nothing to do with actually what I said, but somehow it kind of made sense. It kind of worked. There have been loads of studies on this. People who use their hands to communicate, use their body and move around in their own space are immediately more trustworthy, and the points that they make are immediately more compelling because of this primal process that people went through communicating with their body for the longest time. And so don't neglect that second channel. It's like not being able to see out of one of your eyes. You're missing part of the point if you're not communicating with your body. So make sure you're embodying and emphasizing what you're trying to say through the body, and you're synchronizing the spoken word and your body language. The third tool we can use to improve our delivery, third and final, is emotional encoding, the deliberate use of vocal tone to tell the listener what your words mean and how much they matter. Now, of course, this links to some of the stuff about temporal pause and some of the earlier stuff, but we can utilize volume, tone, and pacing to change the meaning of our words. We can say the exact same thing. I am concerned about this, or I am concerned about this. I increased volume. My tone was more serious. Those were the exact same words, but the delivery came off completely different. And therefore the audience, whoever you're trying to communicate to, is going to have a different emotional response based off volume, tone, and pacing. Pause before a big point. Increase the volume. Select the serious tone that you can do. Lower the pitch of your voice, whatever it is. Because when you raise the pitch of your voice, perhaps that is demonstrating curiosity. When you lower the pitch of your voice, you are trying to demonstrate a backed point that you're trying to make. These are all different things that you can use, different levers that you can be pulling in the context of whatever it is you're trying to communicate. But just understand, people don't remember what you actually say. They remember how it made them feel. And how you make someone feel is largely dependent by the tone that you use behind your language. But at the very least, just variate your tone. Don't just be a robot. Don't just speak like this where everything is the exact same pitch. Change it up a little bit. Up, down, whatever, because you can just be more playful with your words. It's more interesting when you add a bit of randomization to the way that you speak. It's just more compelling to whoever's listening. But they're the 3+1 bonus tool that you can use. I'll leave with this. Effective communication is the meta skill that will pay you dividends in all walks of life. As I said at the start, there is no downside to being good at explaining shit. So take some of these tools to allow you to speak with surgical clarity. I cannot leave you without saying the power of repetition is what holds this all together. But when you break things down to signal, what you say, and delivery, how you say it, and you improve these two together, you will very quickly become way more competent at communicating. I can say this because I've done this for myself. I used to be stuttery, unconfident, and now, well, I think I've got a long way in terms of improving the way I communicate. If you found this lesson valuable, it's your lucky day because I'm going to link on screen now the best lesson I have ever produced. I will see you in there. It's a complete game changer. Godspeed.